Welcome, you're watching Budget Trade on NDTV Profit and this is Samina Nalwala. Today's focus is defence. Defence stocks have been in focus with investor interest soaring following Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's ambitious plans to boost India's defence exports and strengthen domestic manufacturing under the Make in India initiative. India stands fourth in the rankings of highest defence spending countries, next only to the US, China and Russia. The defence share in budget allocation in the interim budget for FY 24-25 stood at 13% at 6.21 lakh crores out of a total budget of 47.66 lakh crores. While the interim budget provides a preview of India's ongoing defence priorities and showcases a consistent approach in implementing policy initiatives towards modernization of the armed forces and promoting a domestic ecosystem for defence manufacturing, the final budgetary picture will be provided by the full budget of FY 24-25, which is expected on the 23rd of July. Well, remember the current order book of the Nifty Defence Index stands at 2.87 lakh crore rupees for the future potentials. Well, let's quickly listen into what the Defence Minister had to say as he laid out the capital outlay and his very ambitious defence plans.
जो हमारे पहले प्रायोरिटीज थी वही आगे भी हमारी प्रायोरिटीज रहेंगी और भारत की अभेद्य सुरक्षा और साथ ही साथ भारत की अजेय सेना और हमारे सैनिकों का कल्याण ये हमारी प्रायोरिटीज में विशेष रूप से शामिल है। यानी हम चाहते हैं एक सशक्त भारत का निर्माण हो, आत्मनिर्भर भारत का निर्माण हो, ये हमारा उद्देश्य है। और साथ ही साथ रक्षा उत्पाद में हम आत्मनिर्भर बने, ये सबसे बड़ा उद्देश्य हमारा है। और इस दिशा में एक मंजिल हम लोगों ने तय की है और आप सब लोगों को मालूम है कि 21,000 करोड़ से अधिक का हम लोगों ने एक्सपोर्ट किया है, जो कि एक हिस्टोरिकल ये अचीवमेंट है। और मेरा तो टारगेट ये है कि इसको हम कम से कम 5 साल समाप्त होते होते 50,000 करोड़ से ऊपर ले जाएं।
Well, Anushi is standing by to tell us what the sector expects from the big bag budget in the next couple of weeks. Anushi, the stocks have gotten very excited. So from Garden Reach to a Cochin to a Mazgaon Dogs to a Zen, a Paras Defence, these stocks have had a phenomenal dream run over the last 1 year, 6 months and even the last 1 month. Walk us through what's expected from the sector in terms of budget expectations and also how has the stock performed in terms of investor wealth creation?
Well, Samina, defense is the theme of today, and let's look at how the defense in general has done. If you look at the defense stocks, their year-to-date return, their 1 month return, they've been on a tear ever since. Just look at a HAL, just look at BML, 99%, 83% of gains in this just year-to-date period. While in 1 month also, there's no stopping these defense stocks, about 49% gains for Cochin Shipyard, all the shipbuilding companies. In fact, let's go to a Mazgaon Dock as well. Mazgaon Dock, Garden Reach, we are seeing about 198% to 144% of gains over the year-to-date basis, and even the 97% Garden Reach has this clocked in. But before we go into what we should be expecting about these defense budget expectations, let's see overall how the government has focused on the budget over the years. So if you look at the allocation over the period, so we are seeing a significant jump in the growth period. So now FY 21 to 22, 4.78 lakh crore. If we go to FY 24 to 25, in this internal budget, we saw about 6.21 lakh crore, 18.3% of growth. So strong growth numbers here. In fact, even if you look at the 6.21 lakh crore that we are looking at, this was the highest among allocation given by the budget to any other ministry. So defense continues to remain strong over here, and even if you look at their expenditure to the overall budget, so again it has more or less remained in a 13 to 15% of range. So in this interim budget we saw that the total spending was about 30%. Again, going to what we can expect going forward from this line onwards, some of the key themes that remains in focus. One is the indigenization theme. Now the defense localizing the production will continue to benefit some of these domestic manufacturers. Even one of the latest comments also came by our Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, wherein our defence manufacturing has gone up over 17% to about 1.26 lakh crore in FY 24. this continues to support the Make in India theme. It said that the Make in India continues to reach to new milestones, and similar lines, we can expect some more reforms or more initiatives to support this growth in the Make in India theme going forward as well. Other than that, even if you look at the defense exports, now defense exports, we are seeing that the sectoral exports have jumped to about 50,000 crore. That's what the Rajnath Singh's plan is, to take the exports number to 50,000 crore by FY 28 to 29. So if you look at the current exports, that is about 21,000 crore, a 3x jump from FY 21 levels. Let's just pull up a chart to understand how the exports have done. Yeah, so if you look at the exports, 51% growth, 24% growth, 32% growth. So there's no stopping these exports. So similar lines, we can export more reforms, more policy initiatives for supporting the kind of outline that the government, the defense minister has given for these, and how this would continue to benefit the defense players. Now the last one that we need to focus on is the higher government contracts for acquiring these new weapons, aircraft, warship and other military equipment as well. So with these, again, if there are more government contracts with this, the top listed players are to benefit. We can just look at the order book and get a sense. Now HAL has 94,000 crore of an order book, while if we look at something like a Garden Reach Shipbuilders, 22,000 crore of an order book, wherein their book-to-bill ratio is about over 6 times. So this shows about healthy revenue growth visibility also going forward. So again, now the focus remains on how these contracts increase over the period and how the companies can benefit from these increasing orders. So back to you, Sameena. The defense continues to remain on a strong footing.
It has generated significant wealth, Anushri. In fact, as we speak as well, defense stocks continue to be on the buy list of a number of large brokerages as well. In fact, Nomura recently emphasized on India's defense sector, projecting a substantial ordering opportunity of $138 billion spanning for FY24 to FY32. The forecast is underpinned by increasing demand for advanced defense equipment, technologies, services, signaling strong growth potential for the sector. Well, to begin with, we've got Amit Mahajan, Director of Paras Defense, who joins us to tell us what his wish list is as we go into the budget. Amit, morning. Thanks a ton for joining us. Amit, we live in exciting times. I mean, if you're an investor buying these defense stocks, obviously you're laughing your way to the bank. You are at the center of all the activity and excitement the defense sector has witnessed. You want to start by telling us what's on your wish list? A lot has changed in the last few years for sure, but as we look ahead into the next 5 to 10 years, what do you expect from this budget?
So, Sameena, firstly, thank you for having me over. It's always a pleasure talking to you. The defense sector is slated for an all-time high, not just what you see right now, but even looking at the future as to what to expect from this sector. I think the days have just started. This is just the dawn. There is a huge, big, long day with a good sunshine awaiting us. I don't know whether you could analyze from the last 4 or 5 years of analysis that your team did why this has increased in favor of the defense sector. You have to understand the geopolitical scenarios across the world. Today, India, although has almost all the countries in the world as their allies, it is imperative for us to be a self-reliant country when it comes to critical defense technologies. Now, this is something which I think is an emphasis, as an underlying message that the country and the government is trying to give to the industry, that now it is the time that we step up, we start investing into this, and so will the business be offered. So you see the budget allocations, you see the growth in the last 3 years. Looking at the geopolitical scenario, this is the roadblock. This is a fundamental stone which is being laid for a much bigger outlay in defense. This is a very encouraging sign. It is going to make us not just self-reliant, but it is also going to create us as a technology hub when it comes to cutting-edge technology, because defense and space always drives the technology segment. This is where we will start leading and be recognized worldwide as a technology sector, a technology hub in the whole spectrum of things.
And it's always good talking to you, Amit. Great to get perspective, but let's get specific now. And you've said this to me as well, time and again, that it's the favorable government policies that will spurt or feed growth for your sector and for your company. What are these policies that we're talking about? Where do you think the trust should lie? Should it be on R&D? Should it be on encouraging, private companies to compete with PSUs? Should it be encouraging and making India far more competitive in the global marketplace? So take one at a time and tell me what your expectations are in terms of policies. If it's R&D, where do things stand and what should be done?
I think a small step towards the R&D, if I may call it as privatization of development in defense technologies. This step, when they put a mandate of 25% of the R&D done by DRDO has to be done by the industry, I think this was a small step in the direction of what they want to achieve at the end of it all. Today, if you look at DRDO, a lot of R&D happens there. Amazing brains of our country when it comes to defense engineering and technologies, they work in the DRDO. Now, when we are taking a 25% pie of such a big development activity, this is a big opportunity for the industry. Because industry, you have to understand that the industry is focused on delivering and then generating revenues and, clocking all the finances, making sure that the working capital is in place, and doing all the things that are required for the business. Now, when this industry is expected to develop technologies all by themselves under the guidance of DRDO, this is a shift of mindset for a businessman. Now, this when a businessman starts looking at development and start doing development, you just see the effect, not now, but maybe a couple of years from now, that when an industry is geared up to do developments at the rate much faster than DRDO, but at the technology readiness as what DRDO is, the future is going to be very bright. This will make sure that we are decentralizing the development in defense technologies. This I would expect an incentivization of this particular activity. I had mentioned this earlier also, that development linked incentive is something that will be great for an industry like defense. And this is something which I would wish for when it comes to development and R&D. When it comes to looking at maybe the PSU competing with the DPSUs competing with the private industry, we are trading at the tier 2 or a tier 1.5 level. But when it comes to maybe the processes, the domain expertise lie in the hands of the DPSUs. It is not very easy to replicate that. I think a collaborative approach, I would always wish for that a DPSU works with a large conglomerate in a collaborative approach. There have been instances where they have worked together. There have been the Rohini radar. I can think of Akash missile. I think there are multiple programs which have been extremely successful, where the DPSUs have collaborated with the large private industries of the country, and the result has only been success. So I think more collaborative approach than a competitive approach should be the way to go.
And that's such a fair point, right? And if you collaborate, only then can you get better and compete as well in the global place. And of course, R&D encouraging development seems like the need of the hour. Now, you're right. You said this to me when we spoke early this year as well, ahead of the interim budget. But we didn't see much getting done on that front. As we look ahead, how do you think a company like yourself or peers, right, can compete more efficiently in the export space, in the global marketplace? Borders have to be a lot more secure today. I know our exports to countries in Africa has gone up because of the war in Ukraine. What do you think the government needs to do to encourage that and make companies like yourself a lot more competitive? If you aren't, I know you already are, but what more needs to be done? And what more could be done, rather?
If you ask me, a company like me doing exports is actually not very difficult. But it is for me to choose that catering to the domestic need where the requirement is far more higher than my export market. This is far more profitable as well than an export market. And I enjoy a preferential treatment here in serving the domestic industry. My plan A always will be to first make sure that I'm satisfying the domestic requirement in defense when it comes to all the platforms, when it comes to Army, Navy, as well as on Air Force. I will look at exports, even if you ask me today, we are export ready. But I will look at exports not for components. I would not look at India to be an export hub of components. What we are today embarking upon by development being offloaded to industries is we are preparing ourselves to be a much significant player when it comes to defense technology. When we start delivering platforms, I would always want to dream that India exports a submarine to another country rather than exporting a small part of a submarine to another country. So this is where we should be looking at. When that happens, like Jay, you just want to take an example of a country like USA. They deliver platforms, and you just imagine the pull that a delivery of a platform by a country like USA to an XYZ country, the whole industry, the pull gets created. It benefits from the large segment to the smallest SMEs working for that particular industry. It generates a great amount of pull. We have started doing this in certain areas. I think in radar programs, we've already started. I think BrahMos missile is one classic example as to how we are exporting a larger platforms. I think a similar thrust on various other segments, this will create a great opportunity for the domestic industry.
Oh, it's exciting times, Amit. We live in uncertain, but nevertheless, very exciting times. Good luck, and hopefully some of those points you mentioned comes true in this budget. We'll hopefully catch you around budget time again, and good luck with earnings as well. We have with us Harshit Kapadia, who joins in now for Lara Capital to talk to us about what his expectations are from budget 2020, 24-25. Hi, Harshit. Thank you for joining us. Harshit, sorry, we were in a conversation with Paras Defense, but just coming to you now, it's all eyes on the budget, and one sector that's created enormous wealth has been the defense sector. In your opinion, in your expectation, what is going to be the defense outlay this budget? Do you expect an increase from what we saw between the interim and now? Harshit, I think you're on mute.
Are you able to hear me now?
Now I can.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I expect the defense capital budget to be stable at 1.72 lakh crore. I don't expect any increase as far as the budget is concerned. But there could be allocation made on a difference between what we pay for Indian Navy, between the Army and the Air Force. So there could be some jugglery within the armed forces, but the overall budget, what I expect it to be stable.
So you are saying that most of these defense funds would be going into Indian Navy, Army and Air Force. Is that a fair expectation?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Harshit, also, we were talking to Paras Defense just before we got into this conversation with you. And he was telling us about how it is important for those verticals or those companies to see the government encouraging and incentivizing R&D. How important do you think is this as an expectation? And do you think it's a fair expectation that could potentially be fulfilled in this budget?
Yes, I think it's a very fair expectation, and we have been not investing much in the R&D side. It was only largely DRDO who was, putting more of efforts on the R&D side. And now, over last few years, the Ministry of Defense has started a lot more activities to fund some of the startups. So there is a technology development fund. They have also invested in that. And there is no fund allocation being given to these kind of investments within Make 1, Make 2 projects, where the government is funding, helping private sector to work with them and develop products. So there is this initiative which is taken to ramp up the R&D. And if you look at the overall budget allocation towards R&D, that has also come to an all-time high in the interim budget. It came to around 25,000 crores. This number, let's say, 5 years back, were close to around 18,000 crores. So there has been a rise as far as the R&D budget is concerned.
Harshit, shipbuilders, so companies like Garden Reach, Cochin Shipyard, Masgaon Docks, of course, not too many private players in the shipbuilding space. Drones, the likes of Paras Defense, Zen Technology, aircrafts, AJL, case in point, and cyber. I believe that's the other emerging, space that we've been talking about. These stocks or listed companies in this space have had an exceptional dream run over the last few months, and the last month especially has been phenomenal. At this juncture, if you're not expecting an increase in capital outlay, what companies do you think could benefit most through this budget announcement?
So most so budget is likely going to be more shifted towards the Navy as well as the Air Force. So any companies who have products or components in this particular space is likely to see more benefit. And there's also some investment which will be going towards drone as well as counter drone system. So any companies within the space would benefit. So just to give names, on the Air Force side, it will largely be Hindustan Aeronautics who will get the benefit. As far as Navy is concerned, we are expecting some imports to also happen for the Indian Navy side, which will largely be related to the Rafale M and also to the drone side of it. So shipbuilding companies on the radar which can benefit from the domestic orders could be Mesgaon Dock, followed by Cochin Shipyard. There is also a policy announcement which we can expect on the shipbuilding and ship repair side under the Maritime India Vision 2030 document. So that should help companies on Cochin Shipyard as well as Garden Rich shipbuilders to benefit on the commercial shipbuilding side. So that is what we expect to see from the budget as well as post-budget.
Harshit, as expected, all the companies mentioned by you are DPSU, right? Anything in the private, amongst the private players in the defense space that you're constructive on? Because you have optics when it comes to Paras Defense, you have Zen Technology that's got drones. Can those also stand to gain, you think? Anything in the private sector, please?
Yes, if you look at the primary beneficiaries are always the PSUs, but the secondary level of benefit which supplies these components and which are part of the ecosystem are the private defense companies and the companies which I think would benefit. One is Paras Defense, other is Zen Technologies, Data Pattern, and Astra Microwave are some of the names which we like within the private defense space. And also on the platform side, it will be Bharat Forge.
Very lastly, Harshit, do you feel like the recent rally is justified because it is a budget rally, right? And these prices are well valued as we see it, or do you feel like some of these counters have ran ahead of themselves, and hence buying them pre-budget may not be advisable?
One thing to say is definitely valuations are high, but they are still under a range. If you look at the domestic cap good companies, their multiples are significantly higher than what the defense pack is trading at. So there is an upside which could be seen from here on as well. However, this budget rally is largely you can play with, but post that, how the allocation happens within the defense budget and what is the pipeline which would be converted into order inflow is something which to be watchful, and you have to take a decision on that.
Right. Thank you very much, Harshit. We'd have loved to have a more extended chat with you, but hopefully closer to the budget, we'll try and connect back. With that, we're completely out of time on this edition of Budget Trades. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit.